ॐ सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम्
शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम्
अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां
अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां
वन्दे
वन्दे
गुरुपरम्पराम्
गुरुपरम्पराम्
ॐ
ॐ
सहनाववतु सहनौ
सहनावतु
भुनक्तु
सहनो
सह वीर्यं
भुनक्तु सह
कृत्वावहै
वीर्यं करवावहै
तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु
तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु
मा
विद्विषावहै
शान्ति
ॐ
शान्ति
शान्ति शान्ति
शान्तिः.
शान्तिः।
So we had completed the 67th Karika, and we are now on the 68th Karika, fourth chapter, Mandukya Upanishad. So we will chant. Please unmute yourself. यथा स्वप्नमयो जीवः
यथा
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 स्वप्नमयो
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 जीवः
जीवः
जायते म्रियतेऽपि च
जायते
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 म्रियते
म्रियते
म्रियतेऽपि
च
च
च
तथा जीवा अमी सर्वे
तथा
तथा जीवा
जीवामि
अमी सर्वे
सर्वे
भवन्ति न भवन्ति च
अवन्ति न
भवन्ति न भवन्ति
भवन्ति
च
च।
Okay. So यथा जीवाः स्वप्नमय जीवाः यथा स्वप्नमय जीवाः just as a jiva who is seen in a dream swapnamayaha bhavanti appears na bhavanti cha and disappears also. So what he's saying is just as a jiva appears to be born in a dream and disappears in a dream, tatha the real jiva also, the Vyavaharika jiva, jayate api mriyate, also is born and disappears. So we talked about the four types of jivas, Andaja, Jarayuja, Svedaja, etc. He's saying that this whole universe of jivas is mithya only. And because it is mithya, you can never very clearly talk about arrivals and departures. You can only talk about apparent arrival and apparent departures. So he says, Sarve ami jivaha bhavanti cha na bhavanti. All these jivas, ami, all these jivas who are in the waking state, who are appearing in the Jagrat Prapancha, they also appear and disappear. How yatha swapnamayaha jivaha jayate apchapi mriyate. Just like the jiva in a dream also comes and also departs. So when you wake up, if you ask for a logical explanation of how your dream jiva appeared and disappeared, it cannot be explained. But during the dream, do you experience that appearing and disappearing? You do. Does that appearing and disappearing have sufficient reality to disturb you? It does. In the dream. So in the dream, the dream tiger can disturb you. And when the dream tiger goes away, you can feel relieved in your dream. The same is the question, the same is the case, he says, with the Jagrat Avastha. And when we talk about jivas coming and going, you can have all sort of questions. One question can be, how did these jivas come about? Right? How did these jivas come to be there in the first place? Second question is whether all the jivas of all the types, of all the four types we talked about, were they there in the beginning of the creation? And if you talk about, say, evolution, so science says evolution is the theory. In the evolutionary theory, what is the process by which various jivas become human beings? And you can have more questions in accordance with your theory of karma. Because karma theory says what? Jiva did karma, And that karma has punya phalam and papa phalam. And to experience those punya phalam and papa phalam, what happens? A jiva is born. So what is the problem here? Which came first? The karma or the jiva? And if you say karma first, then how come karma is there when jivas are not there? And if you say jiva came first, then the theory says that karma gives rise to jivas. So you can go around and round and round, right? The more you inquire into this particular creation, the more you find that there is no logical explanation to anything. And that is why we say anirvachaniyam. The whole thing is anirvachaniyam. And in Vedanta, we use one single word to explain, and that is Maya. This is Maya only. Okay. Then we go to the next Karika, Karika number 69. यथा मायामयो जीवः
यथा
यथा
मायामयो
मायामयो
जीवः
जीवः
जायते म्रियते जायते म्रियतेऽपि च
जायते
जायते
म्रियतेऽपि च
म्रियतेऽपि च
तथा जीवामि सर्वे
तथा
तथा
जीवा
जीवा
अमी
अमी
सर्वे
सर्वे
भवन्ति न भवन्ति च
भवन्ति
भवन्ति
न
न भवन्ति
भवन्ति
च
च
So between the last Karika and this Karika, only one word differs. The last Karika says Swapna Mayo Jiva. This Karika says Maya Mayo Jiva. Right? So Sarve Ami Jivaha Bhavanti Chana Bhavanti Cha. All these jivas appear and disappear. Tatha Yatha, just as Maya Maya Jivaha Jayate Chapi Mriyate. Just as the Maya Maya Jivaha appears and disappears. So, Maya here is not the, you know, Brahman Maya Maya. Okay, not the Maya, which is part of Brahman. But this Maya is the normal meaning of magic, right? Magic, magician's magic. So here the Maya means this Jiva who is an illusion and produced through the magician's magic. The rest of it the same. Just as this illusory jiva produced by the magician appears and disappears, tataha jiva ami sarve bhavanti na bhavanti cha. So also all these jivas in the Jagrata Avastha, they appear and they disappear. So only one word differs, so I won't explain too much. We'll go on to the next Karika. Again, here only one word differs. So we will chant Karika number 70. यथा निर्मितिको जीवः
यथा निर्मितिको
निर्मितक जीवः
जीवः
जायते म्रियतेऽपि च
जायते म्रियतेऽपि च
तथा जीवा अमी सर्वे
तथा जीवा अमी सर्वे
भवन्ति न भवन्ति च
भवन्ति न
भवन्ति न
भवन्ति च
भवन्ति च
So this is extremely similar to Karika number 69. What is the difference here? The word nirmitaha, nirmitakaha, that replaces the word maya. So the maya jiva is the one produced by the magician. And the word nirmitaka here is used to indicate that it is also produced. But here the word nirmitaka is basically relating to the use of powers, siddhis. And therefore here it is not a Mayavi, it's not the magician, it is a Siddha Purusha. So all sort of scriptures talk about various siddhis, various powers which some people have. And the Siddha Purusha is capable of creating a Maya. So in the Puranas, there are many examples. What is the very famous example? Extremely famous, connected to Vishwamitra Rishi,
Trishanku. No.
Trishanku.
Huh?
Right? For
Yeah.
Trishanku, he created a whole world.
Swargam.
Svarga he created, right? And therefore Siddha Purusha. This Vishwamitra had powers, and with those powers he created. This is different from magic. Magic is sleight of hand, illusion, illusory, right? Here it is. There is a difference. But what is the difference? The magician's creation is what? Subjective. And the subjective reality, what do we call it in Vedanta? Among the three orders of reality.
Pratibhasika.
Sorry?
Pratibhasika.
Pratibhasikam is the subjective order of reality. So the magician's creation, the Mayavi's jiva, is Pratibhasikam, right? And Pratibhasikam literally means it's there in front of you, therefore you see it. Or it is in front of you, therefore you see it. And only you can see it. Magician's creation is like that. While the Siddha's creation is Vyavaharikam, everybody can see it. So that's why your dream is Pratibhasikam. Because only you can see the dream, right? But the Ishwara's dream is Vyavaharikam because everybody can see it, right? Now, what is common is that both the Mayavi's Jivaha and the Siddha Purusha's Nimittaka Jivaha, both cannot be logically explained. Just as the magician apparently creates Jiva, so also the Siddha Purusha also creates the apparent Jiva. What is common to all of both of them? One is that they cannot be explained. Another is that whether it be Mayika Jivaha or Nirmitaka Jivaha, both are mithya. Both Pratibhasika Satyam as well as Vyavaharika Satyam, both are mithya. Therefore, the same way he says, the Jagrat Jiva is also mithya. If you say that the magician's jiva is mithya, it's understandable, right? Because the magician produces them in front of you by apparent action which you cannot explain. The Siddha Purusha also produces a jiva and it looks very mysterious because he is using his powers. But the Jagrat jiva seems to be very logical, right? Born from somebody else, lives, dies. But here, Gaudapada says, just as the magician's jiva is mithya and the Siddha Purusha's jiva is mithya, similarly, the Jagrat Prapancha jiva is also mithya. Then you can ask the question, if it is mithya, why do I experience these jivas? What is the answer? Vedanta does not question the experience of a jiva existing in front of you. But what is the question you should ask? When you see this Siddha Purusha's jiva, for example, Trishanku's universe, when you see, you don't question the experience of that universe. What is the question you should ask?
Perception, the reality. The experience is not the reality. Can we
You
say
need
that?
to reword it. Okay, let me give you an example. When you see the moonlight in the night,
Yes.
you don't question the experience of seeing the moonlight. Right? I don't challenge that experience. I see the
Yes.
moonlight. What do you ask? What should you,
What
as
is
a
it
Vedantic,
dependent
ask?
on? What is
You
it
have to
dependent
ask
on?
to whom does
Oh.
this moonlight belong? Does it belong to the sun or does it belong to the moon? And then you say, no, Moonlight is a dependent experience, depending on the sun.
Yes.
Similarly, when you see the Siddha Purusha, you should ask, you don't question seeing that Siddha Purusha Jiva. You ask the existence of that Siddha Purusha. Does it belong to the Siddha Purusha Jiva or does it belong to Brahman? That is the question you should be asked. This is what is the text of this particular Karika. We will go on to the next one. We'll quickly go through all these Karikas because they're very, very similar in many ways. Karika number 71, let's chant. न कश्चित् जायते जीवः
न कश्चित् जायते जीवः
सम्भवोऽस्य न विद्यते
संभवोऽस्य न
शम्भोऽस्य न
विद्यते
विद्यते
एतत्तदुत्तमं सत्यम्
एतत् उत्तमं सत्यम्
एतत्तदुत्तमं सत्यम्
एतत्तदुत्तमं सत्यम्
यत्र किञ्चन जायते
यत्र
यत्र
किञ्चन
किञ्चन
जायते
जायते
सो न कश्चित् जीवः jayate. No jiva is ever born. Why? Asya vidyate na sambhavaha. Because this jiva has no cause at all, has no karanam at all. Etat tat. This tat, this Brahman, is the uttamam satyam, is the highest truth. And what is that? Yatra na kinchit jayate. In that Brahman, nothing is ever born. Very, very profound mantra. Na kaschit jayate jivaha. No jiva is ever born because asya vidyate na sambhavaha. This jiva has no karanam at all. And etat tat. Tat here refers to Brahman. Etat tat uttamam satyam. This is the highest truth. This Brahman is the highest truth. And in that Brahman, yatra na kinchit jayate. Nothing is ever born in that Brahman. Right? So, if all the jivas, Swapna jiva, Mayika jiva, Nirmitika jiva, Jagrat jiva, we said they are not really there. They are only apparently born. And if all are apparently born, is there a jiva who is really born? So he says, no. No jiva is ever born. Because every jiva is none other than Paramatma. Paramatma is never born. Where is the question of jiva being born? Right? That is why before you come to Jivatma, before you come to Vedanta, you have this Jivatma Paramatma connection. You think one is the product and one is the creator. But after coming to Vedanta, you realize that Paramatma is no Karanam at all. Paramatma is never a cause. It is Karya, Karana, Vilakshana. Paramatma is different from a Karyam. It's not a product. Different from a Karanam. It's not a cause also. And since Paramatma is not a cause for anything, obviously no Jivatma can be born from that Paramatma. That is why he says, Asya Sambhava na vidyate. There is no Paramatma who is a cause for the Jiva. So, Sambhava here means the cause from which it is born. When Karanam is not there, obviously Karyam is also not there. What then is really there? Etat tat uttamam satyam. There is only one highest reality, the Paramarthika Satyam, which supports both Vyavaharika and Pratyavasika. Both Jagrata Avastha and Swapna Avastha are only dependent relative realities. Neither of them is absolute. How do we know? Because the waking state is not available for a dreamer, and the dreaming state is not available for a waker. Therefore, both are relative realities only, right? What is available in all these three avasthas The consciousness principle pervading them is available. And therefore, yatra kinchit jayate, nothing is ever born in that Brahman. That Brahman is the substratum, the very, very support of all these other three states. This is back to the beginning stages of this Upanishad when we said there are four entities, three are Mithya and one is Satya. Right? So this is all supporting that very important seventh mantra of the Upanishad. And what should you say? That Atma, I am. That Brahman, I am. Now we go to Karika number 72. We will check. Chittaspandhitam me vedam.
चित्तस्पन्दितमे
चित्तस्पन्दितं मे
वेदम्
वेदम्
Chittaspandhitam me vedam.
चित्तस्पन्दितं
चित्तस्पन्दितमे
मे
वेदम्
वेदम्
Grahya
ग्राह्यग्राहकवद्भ्यवम्
ग्राह्यग्राहकवध्ययम्
Grahakavadvayam.
ग्राह्यग्राहकवद्वयम्
ग्राह्यग्राहकवद्वयम्
Chittam nirvishayam nityam.
चित्तं
चित्तं
निर्विषयं
निर्विषयं नित्यम्
Asangam tena kirtitam.
असङ्गं
असङ्गं
तेन
तेन
कीर्तितम्
कीर्तितम्
So you have to break it up carefully. Chitta spanditam eva idam. Right? And then you take out that idam and put it next to dvayam, or the last word of the first line, and you get idam dvayam. This duality, this is what universe. This duality consisting of what? Grahya, grahakavat. Grahyam is the object. Grahaka is the person who holds the object. So Grahyam is the object, Grahakam is the subject. Therefore, idam dvayam grahya grahakavat, consisting of the subject and the object. What are they? Chitta spanditam eva. Chitta is consciousness. Spandanam means movement. Chitta spanditam eva is nothing but a movement of the consciousness. What kind of consciousness? Chittam nityam nirvishayam. That consciousness which is nityam, eternal, and nirvishayam, which is eternally object free, free of all objects. And tena, therefore, kirtitam asangaha. Kirtitam means to be, it is said. It is said, therefore, that that consciousness is asangaha, free of all relationships. Okay. So we said that no jiva is born and no jagat is born. Then how come they are being experienced? So we have to relate this back to the Alata Spandanam example, where we said that there was a firebrand or agarbatti, which you move and you see the patterns. So it's the same idea being mentioned here. Your consciousness has absolutely no movement at all. But your thoughts, because they are in motion, the consciousness being reflected of the thoughts, they appear to move. And that results in this tangible world. So if you look at the dream example, then your thoughts, which are the consciousness which is being reflected in the thoughts, is appearing as the tangible dream world. Similarly, this particular Jagrata Avastha, the subject object duality which you experience all the time, is nothing but the apparent motion of the consciousness. And Vedanta is saying that the non tangible, non moving, eternal, all pervading consciousness alone appears as a world because it seems to move. Spandita means motion. So, in this context, the word chittam means consciousness. not the Chittam of Tattvabodha. The Chittam of Tattvabodha is memory, right? Here it is Chittam means consciousness. Spanditam means motion. And that is why if you have seen that Lord Nataraja's images, Nataraja is visualized as the cosmos, right? He represents the world, and the motion of the world is being indicated by his eternal dance. The fact that he is moving, how do you know when you look at the image?
The hair, hair which is, we can see it's almost perpendicular to the ground in
The
the
hair is
image.
parallel to the ground,
Mm.
and therefore he is moving. So consciousness is principle is represented by Nataraja. Spandanam is the dance. And therefore, Chaitanya Spandanam is Nataraja's cosmic dance. What is Nataraja's cosmic dance? It is nothing but the universe. So he says, Idam Dvayam Grahya Grahyakavat Eva Chitta Spanditam. This world consisting of the duality of subject and object is nothing but the seeming motion of consciousness alone. That consciousness alone, when in apparent motion, is the world. And when the motion appears to be at rest, then it is consciousness itself. When it is at rest, there is neither subject nor object, right? And how will it appear without the subject object duality that we experience every day in Sushupti Avastha? Who don't experience any Dvaitam at all. When you don't experience any Dvaitam, as in Sushupti Avastha, the consciousness is at apparent rest. But what is the real truth? Chittam nirvishayam nityam. The consciousness is asangaha, does not have any contact with any world of objects, does not have any object to contact at all, for one very simple reason. What is that reason? Consciousness cannot have an object to contact. Why? And you have to understand
Yes.
that. You have to
Any
ask the
contact?
question.
Sorry,
You have to
sorry.
ask the question: can the clay contact the pot? Or can the water contact the wave? The answer is obviously no, because there is no clay other than the pot, or other way around. There's no pot other than the clay. There is no wave other than the water. There is only one clay and one water. You need two entities for contact to take place. Similarly, since there is no universe other than consciousness, consciousness cannot ever contact the world. And therefore, asangam tena kirtitam. Therefore, it is said in Shastra that consciousness has no relationships at all. Consciousness is asangaha. And when there is no second thing, what is the natural consequence? For a person, if there is no second thing, what is the natural consequence? There is no source of fear. And that absence of fear completely, absence of insecurity completely, that is what is called moksha. Yeah, Shankara in his commentary notes that chitta should be taken as chaitanyam itself, the consciousness principle, not as the mind. What happens? Shankara doesn't say why. He just makes the comment. What happens if you take chittam as the mind of the jiva? What happens to this particular viewpoint?
It is dependent on the world, like we saw in the last verse.
It becomes Shanikavada,
Hmm.
Buddhism.
Hmm.
And therefore, Shankara says, take it as consciousness principle itself.
Hmm.
The Lord's consciousness, not your Jiva's mind. Okay. We'll go back to Karika number 73 now. We will chant. Yosti kalpita samrattaya
योऽस्ति कल्पितसंवृत्तया
paramarthena nastyasau
परमार्थेन
परमार्थेन
नास्त्यसौ
नास्त्यसौ
nastyasau paratantra visamritya
परतन्त्राभिसंवृत्या
परतन्त्राभिसंवृत्य
स्यान्नास्ति परमार्थतः
स्यान्नास्ति परमार्थतः.
So yaha asti asau. This which exists, this duality which exists, is from kalpita samrittaya, from the apparent viewpoint, from the empirical viewpoint. And na paramarthena asti doesn't really exist from paramarthika drishti. So he says this duality is from the standpoint of the Vyavaharika world. Because in Paramarthika, this reality does not exist. And therefore he says, Paratantra visamritya syat. It exists. Now, Paratantra visamritya, you have to take it as from the viewpoint, standpoint of other systems of philosophy. Na paramarthena asti. And from the Vedantic point, which is the Paramarthic viewpoint, it doesn't really exist. So only from the transactional standpoint, the relative standpoint, this dualistic world exists. And what is the example? For the dreamer, the dream world is not mithya. But for the waker, the dream world is mithya. Similarly, for the Vyavaharika Jiva, in the transactional plane, in the transactional reality, the transactional reality is very much real. But from the standpoint of the higher plane, Paramarthika, this transactional reality, this Vyavaharika Prapancha is Mithya. Right? So the word Samritya normally means covering up. But here it means Vyavahara, transactions. So that has to be noted. Asau yaha asti kalpita samritya. From the transactional world only. And na paramarthena asti, but from the paramarthic standpoint, this world doesn't exist at all because it was never born. Just like the dream world doesn't exist from the standpoint of the waker. But paratantra abhisamrittaya, from the standpoints of other darshanas like Sankhya, Nyaya, Vaishishika, what is peculiar to all these darshanas? For them, the concept of mithya is not there at all. And therefore, the whole thing is vyavaharika satyam for them. They don't understand or they don't accept paramarthika viewpoint at all. Therefore, all the other philosophies are from the point of view of vyavaharika drishti only. That is why they don't have the concept of mithya at all. So when you talk to the people who are non-Advaitins, for them, remember the world is always Satyam. Because from the point of view of their darshanas, they have only Vyavaharika standpoint. They don't have the Paramarthika standpoint at all. So from the Waker's viewpoint, this world is real. But from Brahman viewpoint, this world doesn't exist. And therefore, for us to be clear about this philosophy, we should always be very clear about the various orders of reality. Paramarthika, Vyavaharika, and Pratibhasika. Right? Okay. Another point is that when we talk about only one, only non-duality, then why do we talk about superimposition, adhyasa? What is the answer? We say Jagat is mithya and Brahman is satyam. Brahma satyam, Jagat mithya. Why do we talk about adhyasa at all in that case? So you must remember that we talk about adhyasa, superimposition, only to extract the correct understanding from the scriptures. Adhyasa by itself is never a problem. Superimposition is never a problem. Take the example of the rope snake. The rope snake adhyasa is a problem when it is born from ajnana. But if in a movie or in a play, if you're doing a snake dance, you superimpose a real snake upon a rubber snake. Does it create any fear for the actors? No. Why? Because that is a deliberate superimposition, not born from ajnana. So here the idea being mentioned is that adhyasa is never a problem. Therefore, Advaitin accepts adhyasa. Advaitin only says if the adhyasa is born from ignorance of the substratum, then it is a problem. If it is a deliberate adhyasa, it is never a problem. Okay, any questions? That's a very important point which we should all remember because we always do adhyasa. When I say I am drinking water, who is drinking water? Is adhyasa there? And if adhyasa is there, what has been superimposed upon what?
The body is superimposed on the Atma, on Brahman. Is that what we are talking about?
Yes, but you should no longer say upon Brahman.
On myself.
Yes, so that is deliberate adhyasa.
Yes.
Deliberate adhyasa is never a problem. Only when it is born from ignorance, it is a problem. Okay.
It also helps us understand Acharya in the initial phases
That is why
about the
initially use
substance.
it to understand
Yes. Yes.
and then use it to assimilate.
Yes.
Okay. Now we go to verse Karika number 74. We will chant. Ajakalpita samrittaya
अजकल्पित संवृत्तया
paramarthena napyajaha
परमार्थेन
यजः
paratantrabhinishpatya
परतन्त्रा हि
परतन्त्राहिनिष्पत्त्या
निष्पत्त्या
samrittaya jayate tu saha.
समृद्धया जायते
जायते
सः
तु सः
Now, he says paramarthena. In reality, however, na api ajaha. You cannot even say that consciousness has no birth. Very profound statement. Paramarthena, from the paramarthika drishti, how can you say that consciousness has no birth? And ajaha kalpita samvrittayaha. This understanding that consciousness has no birth is the viewpoint from the Vyavaharika standpoint. Sattu jayate, for anything is said to be born, samvrittaya, in accordance with the empirical view, paratantra abhinishpatya, arising out of other systems of philosophy. What do you mean by all this? By now we know that Brahman is nirvikaram, beyond any change. Right? Now, when you use the word nirvikaram, he says, from the vyavaharika drishti, from the empirical viewpoint, there are people who talk about Brahman as the karanam for the world, right? And any karanam, is it subject to change?
Yes.
All karanam is
Mm.
savikaram,
Yes.
because to change, to produce an effect, that karanam has to be savikaram. And therefore, from the vyavaharika standpoint, you look at Brahman as savikaram. And that is why we say nirvikaram, to negate that idea, to negate the wrong notion that Brahman is savikaram. But once that understanding has taken place, and you have said that the word savikaram has no place in my dictionary, then what savikaram means what? With change. So when you have negated that idea, and now your firm understanding is that there is no concept of change at all, then he says, why should you use the word nirvikaram? When there is no word called change, where is the meaning for a word called changeless? When savikaram is negated, where is the necessity to use the word nirvikaram? From vyavaharika drishti, empirical standpoint, people talk of saguna Brahman. And to negate this error, we have to use the word nirguna Brahman. But once the idea that sagunam is not there has been understood, the word nirgunam will also become irrelevant. Therefore, all these descriptive words which we use, nirvikaram, sagunam, nityam, immortal, changeless, karya karana vilakshanam, satyam, advayam, all these words are used only for one purpose, or as a tool to negate the misconceptions which arise in the empirical standpoint. Therefore, once one set of misconceptions is gone, the words which are used to negate those misconceptions will also go away. Right? Do you agree?
Yes.
What is a good example? We
Mm.
use the word day. Why?
Because in contrast, there is night. And
You have to
during the
reword that.
day,
Wording has to be correct. You use the word day because there is an experience of night.
correct.
Correct. If you are in deep space, or other way around, let's say, if you are in, let us say, if your house on the sun, right? Would you have a night at all?
No, because there's
No.
going to be light all the time.
Mm.
Therefore, you will not use the word day.
Yes.
That is why it's said that since all these words are used to negate some misconception or the other, remember, none of these words are a descriptor for Brahman. All the words used basically are meant to negate the ideas that are there about Brahman, wrong ideas that we have about Brahman. And therefore, from the Paramarthika Drishti, from the standpoint of Paramartha, reality, what should be the definition of Brahman?
Silence.
Silence alone, which is why
Mm.
we use the word amatra.
Mm.
If you remember the word amatra from long ago, right?
Yes. Yes.
So that's why Shankaracharya, in his introduction to this to the particular Upanishad, he says somewhere that though we are saying Turiam, Turiam actually means what, the fourth one.
Fourth.
And
Uh,
the fourth one. Turiam
uh-huh.
means fourth. Word Turiam means fourth. And therefore he says, since you have negated Vishwa, Tajasa and Prajna, the first, second and third padas, there is no fourth pada at all. And therefore you should not be using the word Turiam also. What should you do?
Stay silent,
Stay silent.
as many of the
Which is why it is said that the jnanis don't open their mouth. So once the temporary universe has been negated, the word permanent, changeless, all these things become absolutely meaningless. And he says, Paratantra Abhinishpataya. These words are all used by other systems of philosophy. So Sankhya Yoga, Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Bauddha, Purvamamsa, Jainism, all these use these kind of terminologies. Because for them, Brahman is subject to birth. And therefore he says, in summary, the word Dvaitam is mithya because it is used in the empirical world, in Vyavaharika. But because Dvaitam is mithya, the word Advaitam is also mithya because that is also used in Vyavaharika only. Therefore, the word Advaitam and even the thought that this is Advaita both require the mind, the body and the mind. Body and the mind are available where? Only in the empirical world. Therefore, both are mithya. What then is Brahman? It is the support of this mithya word and mithya thought. That substratum is Brahman alone. The substratum of the word Advaitam and the substratum of the thought Advaitam, that alone is Brahman. Right? That Brahman cannot be imaginary. It is Satyam Brahman only. So remember that all this teaching which we are doing for so many years, that teaching is Satyam or Mithya.
mithya.
What then is Satyam? Why are you engaging yourself and spending 10 years of your life in listening to Mithya teaching?
To know Satyam.
To negate it.
So the
Yeah.
Mithya teaching itself is Mithya,
Hmm.
but the reality which that teaching points to,
Hmm.
that reality is Satyam. And this is the correct understanding of what do I do by studying.
Hmm.
Whole thing is Mithya. My body is Mithya, my mind is Mithya, the teacher is Mithya, teacher's mind is Mithya, Shastram is Mithya, teaching is Mithya. But what Shastram says, what it points to, that alone is Satyam. Okay. Any questions?
No words, Raviji. Only silence.
Okay. We have enough time for one more. So let us look at the 75th Karika. अभूताभिनिवेशोऽस्ति
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 द्वयं तत्र न विद्यते
द्वयं
द्वयं
तत्र न
तत्र न
विद्यते
विद्यते
द्वया भावं स बुद्ध्वैव
द्वया
द्वया
भावं
भावं
सबुद्धैव
सबुद्धैव
बुद्ध्वैव निर्निमित्तो न जायते
निर्निमित्तो
निर्निमित्तो
न
न
जायते
जायते
So Dvaitam na vidyate tatra. Tatra means in that consciousness principle, in that Chaitanyam, Dvaitam na vidyate, there is no question of any Dvaitam at all. Asti Abhuta abhinivesha. Abhinivesha means obsession. Abhuta is that which is not there. So mithya. There is only an obsession with the mithya duality and budhva eva dvaya bhavam. Having known this non-duality, sanajayate, the student is not born again because nirnimittaha. There is no cause to be born at all. Okay, so with the last karika, we finished one major chunk of the summarization, which was from karika 57 to the last karika, right? The entire teaching has been summarized. Now, from this karika, for the next 12 karikas, Gaudapada talks about human problems and sufferings. So, when the teaching says that you are the non dual Brahman beyond all suffering, suffering can never touch you. But that is straight away contradicted by experience. What is the reason? All problems of samsara are due to avidya alone. And how did this avidya come? Avidya is, remember, anadi. It was always there. And because of that avidya, we identify as Vishwa and Tejasa. And from the standpoint of that identification as Vishwa or as Tejasa, we become individuals. From the individual standpoint of view, the world becomes real to me. And therefore, the real world, of course, will become a source of misery. So he says that the obsession with this mithya universe is the cause of the problem. Mithya universe means what? Body, mind, complex, relatives, friends, all that. Even teachers, okay? That is the cause of the problem. And then the conditioning is so deep that even when the teacher says, this is mithya, we are not able to assimilate that fact easily. So, what is the reason? Because of the obsession with the body, mind, complex, etc. And therefore, if you want to get out of this samsara, you have to break this obsession, right? And now, I'll give an example. Did anybody of you, you know, during the COVID-19 outbreak, did anybody think that you had COVID when you really didn't have? And but the thought was so strong that you had to go and get the tests, what is called RT-PCR tests. Did anybody go through the experience?
Yes.
Okay, now what was the, remember, what is being said here? You didn't have COVID, but you thought you had COVID, and
Hmm.
therefore you took the RT-PCR test,
Hmm.
right? So in between the taking the test and the arrival of the results, you had what was called psychological COVID
Yes.
because you had symptoms but didn't really have the cause at all. So, do you see the difference here? Not the difference, similarity. Gaudapada is saying this universe of yours is like this non existent corona. Therefore, it says Abhuta Abhiniveshaha. Abhuta means that which is not there at all. Abhiniveshaha is obsession. So just like you were obsessed with that non-existent COVID and suffered because of that obsession, you are obsessed with the non-existent universe, and therefore you suffer from that obsession. How does a non-existent thing bring about suffering? That is the power of avidya.
Avidya, Maya.
Maya. And if the non-existent COVID could create so much havoc in my life, what to talk about Bhagavan Srishti? So therefore, to be able to get out of this obsession, you have to soak yourself in Vedantic teaching day by day, hour by hour, and all the 24 hours, whenever you are free, you have to review the teaching, run it through your head, stand aside, and there is a saying, "Oh, what is this life so full of care? I don't have time to stand and stare." Right?
Mm. Mm.
But take that time to stand and stare, but stare at yourself, observing the whole drama. So assimilation takes time. And that's why he says, Dvayam tatra na vidyati. There is no duality at all in Brahman. What is there? They knew what is there. Abhuta abhinivesha asti. There is a very strong obsession with that duality, which is not really there at all. And we know any amount of sadhana, karma cannot remove a non-existent samsara, which is born from ajnana. You have to remove the samsara, you have to remove the ajnana. And if you remove the ajnanam, there is only one way, by knowing that I am that Brahman who is beyond all this. And therefore, dvaya abhavam sa buddha eva. Non-duality or removal of samsara is a matter of knowledge only. Right? What does the teacher do? He shows the Shastra mirror to you to show you that there is no real samsara at all. And here nirnimittaha means free from the nimittam. Nimittam is the karanam. What is the karanam for samsara? Ajnana. So nirnimittaha means being free from ajnanam, which means after gaining the knowledge, there is no cause for the samsara because ajnanam has gone away. And therefore only saha na jayate. That person is never born again. Right? Remember that, again, to come back to that earlier discussion, the word rebirth is also meaningless for a Vedantin. Why?
Rebirth is for the body, but if you are Brahman, there is no rebirth for you.
But we just said that there is no body different from Brahman. Therefore, when there is no question of birth at all,
There is.
where is the question of rebirth? Both
Hmm.
words are meaningless, which is why Krishna said, "Na jayate mriyate va kadachit nayam bhutva bhavita va tapuyah." The solution for samsara is what? Jnanam only. Therefore, come for Vedanta class. With that, we'll stop for today. Any questions?
Om, sir.
Yeah.
This word Abhinivesha is the same one as the Kleshas, isn't it? So that also
As the
was about.
Abhinivesha in the Kleshas. Their Abhinivesha
Yeah.
simply means obsession with life.
Yes. Fear of death or.
Yeah, basically. But here Abhinivesha means obsession.
Okay.
So I got now more confused with the if there is how do you explain then the karma if there is no birth and rebirth? The karma principle.
Karma, rebirth, birth, Videha Mukti, all these are for junior students. For us at this stage, the question should be, where is the question of karma at all? I am Brahman Akarta. Yes, the body will do karma. And even if the body does karma and is reborn, how does it affect me? So let the whole universe continue to be born and be destroyed. Look upon it as a whole play within your body. Within you, not body, within you. Because that you is Atma alone, is Brahman alone. It's like all the blood on the movie screen, What is not affected?
Right.
The screen.
The screen is not
Screen
affected.
is now
So
affected.
be the screen, not the actor.
Yes. Thank you.
So with this, we'll stop for today. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vasishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you for your patience. Om Om.
Thank you, Acharya ji.